Sagittarius, we're starting off December with a lot of planets in your sign. We have the Sun, Venus, and Mars traveling through Sagittarius in your first house. Sun is your identity and it's your vitality, whereas Mars is your physical energy, your motivation, ambition. Venus is all about social charm, love, affection, what we find attractive, how we style and feel good about ourselves. So with all these planets in your sign, this means that you're likely to be starting off the month very strong, feeling confident, motivated. Sagittarius is a very fiery and expansive sign. You may be feeling extra adventurous, trying new things and making different kinds of explorations. Venus here also may be making you feel more attractive as well and socially outgoing. Venus also is sextile to Pluto, which is traveling through your third house, and they perfect the sextile or this contact on the first of the month. So Pluto basically intensifies your desire to possibly find love or maybe even romanticize your life. You may want to travel, learn new things, and expand your horizons in one way or another. Venus and Pluto typically talk about a lot of inspiration, creativity, but as well as healthy obsessions. So you may be experiencing some sort of deepening of the things that you love. Venus also is recently separating from an opposition with Uranus in your 7th house. So Uranus is a very rebellious energy. It's unconventional, eccentric. It loves to explore and try things that you typically would not, especially related to people because it's at the cusp of your 7th house. So you may actually be attracted to different types of people, unique individuals, or someone who stands out for being outside the norm. Foreign people, foreign cultures could be also very attractive to you around this time as well. Venus also is separating from a trine aspect to Neptune. Neptune is all about idealism, refinement. So you may have been experiencing a very specific kind of attraction to certain things. You may have also been very dreamy, imaginative, almost like escaping into fantasy. Neptune is at the cusp of your 5th house, so this can speak about different kinds of fun activities, recreational activities, creativity, the way you express yourself, hobbies as well. So you may have been wanting to find that perfect kind of self-expression or creative hobby that you may want to try. But the opposition to Uranus and trine to Neptune perfected November 30th. And Venus does move pretty quickly. So by the 4th of December, Venus is going to separate completely away from these aspects to the outer planets, including Pluto. On the 4th, though, we do have our full moon in Gemini, and this is activating your 7th house. This will likely bring in some sort of illumination related to relationships, possibly romantic connections as well. What's really interesting about this full moon is Sun and the Moon are both making square aspects to the South and North nodes as well, which are currently traveling through your 4th and your 10th houses. Now, when we talk about your relationships and the nodal axis, the nodes always involve past life experiences or early memories or the things that we're typically meant to let go of, and then where we're supposed to head towards in this life. North Node in your 4th house is drawing your energy towards family, domestic life, and home environments. So there may be relationships where you may be letting go of some sort of past emotional patterns when it comes to choosing the types of partners that you are attracted to or that you choose. And this can also be a very karmic configuration when it's involving the luminaries affected by the nodes. So there is past and present conflict. Past lovers, exes may be re-entering the picture, and then you possibly having to choose to move forward But whatever choices that you make around this time, if that is something you're dealing with, it's possible that you're maybe pulled towards those that feel familiar. There is an emotional resonance. So that could, what's really confusing about this energy is because the South Node is all about remembering past life connections, whereas the fourth house North Node is a very karmic placement. So it already kind of speaks of connections that feel familiar to you, especially emotionally. But there is this sense of trusting your intuition and trusting your emotional or psychic impressions over being overly logical or using reason to make decisions. That's that South Node in Virgo kind of energy. So there may be some confusing relationship or situationship things happening for you around this full moon. But we also have a grand water trine between Mercury, Saturn, and Jupiter on the same day as well. I don't think they're perfect, but they're pretty close, especially Jupiter and Saturn. Jupiter is at 24 degrees of Cancer around this time, and Saturn is at 25 degrees of Pisces. Mercury is at an earlier degree in Scorpio at 22 degrees, and it is in your 12th house. So these are involving your 12th house, 8th house, and 4th house. In modern astrology, these houses are considered water houses. So typically, it is a water grand trine. So there's a lot of intuitive energy, emotional wisdom. Jupiter and Saturn working together, especially in Pisces and Cancer, you can kind of rely on your own emotional impressions to make the right type of decisions. Together, they typically lead towards mature understandings, compassionate perceptions, and wisdom in general. And then, of course, the Mercury in Scorpio, it's like your mind and heart are somehow communicating and connected, and you kind of understand yourself better intuitively on that kind of on that level. So with these trines happening between these planets, whatever information or introspection that you are having, especially related to this full moon energy surrounding relationships, you really need to kind of trust your own rather than relying on external information, if that makes sense. That Mercury in your 12th house is a very internal dialogue. So there can be a lot of dialogue, meaningful information that is coming through from within around this time. Moving forward to December 8th, we have a difficult energy. Mars in Sagittarius is coming to an exact square aspect to Saturn in Pisces. These are involving your first and fourth houses. So when Mars is being met in a challenging aspect from Saturn, especially in your fourth house, this typically talks about you not being able to make a forward momentum, you not being able to make decisions assertively on your own. Mars in Sagittarius is a very freedom-loving physical energy. So, for example, the way this could manifest is Mars in Sagittarius in your first house wants to explore and try new paths. It wants you to go out in the world and be adventurous, ambitious, and driven, but in your own accord. So you make your decisions without anyone interfering. Whereas that Saturn in your fourth house, a father figure, a grandfather figure, some sort of authority figure in your family kind of stops you in your tracks, and they remind you of where your responsibilities are, and you just can't quite move forward the way you want to. You have to consider other limitations and obligations. So this can be a pretty frustrating energy. Mars and Saturn are both those kind of planets that come with a lot of heavy sort of energies, especially related to burden, limitations, conflict. So there can be some struggle around this time. You may need to be confronting with some sort of limitations, basically, and just experiencing being held back if that makes sense. On the 14th, this sort of frustrating energy continues on when the sun comes to square Saturn this time. Sun is moving towards Saturn from your first house to that fourth house. So Sun is our own sense of vitality, our identity, its ego. So it's almost like the ego is clashing with the bigger responsibilities, the bigger rules and authority that we have to follow, especially related to our roots, our family members, our family obligations and responsibilities. So it's almost like coming to or being stopped in your tracks due to obstacles and challenges from someone else. And this could somehow involve finances or siblings or cousins, because Saturn does rule your second and third houses. So those kind of areas in your life can be involved or causing you some sort of blockages. On the same time, Mars is square to Neptune exactly at 29 degrees. So Mars in Sagittarius squaring Neptune in Pisces. And in one hand, this can show that, whatever it is that you're trying to lead your life, the direction that you're going towards, it's kind of filled with a sense of idealism. So maybe like older generations or older family members are literally telling you that you cannot continue living your life the way you want to, or toward the direction that you are heading towards, because it's not realistic. You're following fantasy and dreams and illusions and not staying grounded and making, mature, logical, good decisions. That's what it can kind of feel like. So when Mars and Neptune are conflicted in a square aspect, it's like almost like your efforts have they won't bring any sort of outcome. So that could be the energy around the 14th of the month. There's just a sense of a very restrictive feeling due to Saturn. And it can bring in feeling inferior, uncertain, confused, and you may need to deal with a lot of self-doubt and fear, which is also Saturn, but also Saturn and Neptune working together against the Sun and Mars in your first house. The 19th of December is our new moon in Sagittarius, and this is actually happening I believe at like 28 degrees of Sagittarius, towards the end of your sign. So it's about to move to your second house. So technically this new moon energy is activating your first and second house cusp, and it's moving away from Sagittarius to Capricorn. New moon is all about illumination, and especially in Sagittarius, it can show a new beginning related to a new adventure, or like a birth of a new vision. It sounds really good and very like expansive and promising, but there are the same sort of challenges that you're being faced with, because the new moon is square to the Saturn and Neptune. So there's really this battle between idealism versus realism. And things could feel just out of reach or almost impossible or too good to be true. Like you're far reaching for dreams that is unlikely to manifest. That sort of limiting beliefs can stop you in your tracks around the middle of the month. So Saturn and Neptune can talk about, on one hand, what you dream about accomplishing, what you dream about doing versus what is actually what you're able to build and what is sustainable. So that's that realism versus idealism type of energy. But it can be a very sensitive time. There is a very, your direction in life, your sense of self, your emotional foundation can feel very sensitive, delicate, and fragile. as a result of that Neptune influence. Neptune tends to, especially when it's squaring the sun or moon, it tends to diffuse our ego, our sense of self-esteem. It brings in a lot of doubt and uncertainty. But involving your second house, there is some type of struggle that is related to finances as well. So maybe diffuse sense of financial stability, or whatever path that is that you want to go towards may not be financially promising, for example. Could be just one of the many examples that this energy could be making you feel at this time. Now, the next day on December 20th, the moon moves forward to conjunct Mars. Moon and Mars is a very difficult aspect, especially on your emotions. It's like your emotional landscape or your emotional well-being is violated in some way. That's what Mars on Moon feels like almost. On the same day, we also have Venus now coming to square Saturn. And then a couple of days later, on December 23rd, Venus is going to square to Neptune this time. So after, Sun and Mars making harsh aspects to Saturn and Neptune, Venus is going to follow towards the end of the month. And this can feel as though love and affection can feel very restrictive or elusive. It can feel very vulnerable. You may actually experience some sort of painful events or disappointing outcomes. Venus and Saturn, they don't do well. Venus is, how we receive love, how we feel valued, and how we accept affection. And with Saturn squaring that Venus, it takes away a lot of our ability to show, but as well as accept love and affection too. So there's just that a sense of void when it comes to love. A lot of our needs can feel unmet or even unseen. Now, when I think of, especially with Saturn and Venus, it always makes me feel like it is a karmic type of karmic experiences. You're either paying some sort of past life debts. There is that sense of heaviness and having to meet difficult demands. Yeah, so I just, Saturn being involved in so many square aspects to our inner planets like the Sun, Moon, Mars, Venus at the end of the month or middle of the month, it just feels like sacrifice or hardship is demanded as a way of repaying some sort of karma or karmic debt. And this can be especially true if you also have your natal planet around these degrees of, 25 degrees of Sagittarius, maybe even Virgo or Gemini, because then those would oppose and square that Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. And then the way the month is ending, it's a little different than how the month began. At the beginning of the month, we started off feeling like there was a lot of opportunity ahead of us. But we're ending the month with the Sun, Venus, and Mars in Capricorn in your second house. So you're ending December and 2025 with more of a serious tone, especially related to your finances, because that's what your second house is about. So your expectations, direction, energy output just take on a lot more serious and realistic tone as a result of everything that you have been going through the month of December that may have been disappointing or that may have made you feel very unsecure or disappointed and uncertain. So as a result of all that, you may be taking on a stronger stance and moving forward with a different type of energy. Mars in Capricorn is a strong Mars, so you're able to grind through challenges and hardship and make things happen for yourself, but it can be a very slow-moving energy as well. Whereas the Sun and Venus in Capricorn can be a little pessimistic, melancholic energy. So it feels like that's how the month will end. And I can't wait to see you at the beginning of 2026. Bye.